War 2 Retribution cast. Let's get it started right now. Let's see, what do we got here? So, we got over here in this tunnel right now, we got Texanius the Legend as the Tyranid Ravner Alpha. And over here, we have Paranoid, just Paranoid, the Game Replays moderator. And if you'll see that, he's got a little sports picture, that's like a team mascot on his Force Commander. I think it's, I think I asked him this, and we'll find out in the chat. But anyway, we got a replay here. I'm having a little trouble talking today. I'm trying something new. I got a new recording software. I got something called Bandicam. I've been using Fraps, but it's kind of shitty. Records huge files that take up like 10% of my hard drive for every cast. So this hopefully this software works out a little better. Anyway, back to the match. As I asked Paranoid Cammy what his team logo was on his Force Commander, and he says it's the Canucks or the Canucks, or I don't even know how you say it. But either way, let's talk about the match again. Over here we have Tyranids against Space Marines. Probably some kind of like classic matchup in the lore, but I'm not really into the lore. I'm mostly just in it for the video games. And we got the Force Commander getting forced off. This is, I think, traditionally considered one of... It's actually... Some people would actually say that this is the worst matchup in the entire game. It favors Tyranids. I think it has gotten a lot better as Retribution patches have gone on. I think the worst Space Marines had it was probably back when Scout Sergeants could be killed off, and then you needed to rebuy them, because then Lictor Alpha would just cloak. It would flesh hook Scout Sergeants and kill them in one hit, and then there would be nothing to detect the Lictor Alpha. But anyway, right now we got Tax forcing melee with Termagants. These Tax, sometimes you kind of don't see them against Tyranids, just because people try to do some 3 scout stuff, and Paranoid does have 3 scouts, but he also does have a Tax squad. Tax really good at bleeding Tyranid units, and they're kind of doing that right now, and he's taking advantage of one of Tyranid's weaknesses, which is that they're one of the worst races when it comes to dealing with garrisons. Right now, Tex does not actually have any units to deal with garrisons, so he's just letting his Paranoid is just letting his tactical Marines take the garrison. Meanwhile, yeah, and even over here, he's letting his scouts take the garrison, because he knows that Tyranids are one of the worst races for dealing with garrisons. They either have to get Barb Strangler Warriors, which are, well, actually, in my opinion, they're pretty good, but still not that great as anti-garrison, and it's usually better to have melee warriors. Or you need to get a whole other unit, which is Spore Mines, which will eventually die off. Anyway, we got scouts here, forced down to 1 model. Paranoid Cammy has gotten for definitely not a traditional build by any stretch, except for maybe just what Space Marine players will try to do in order to deal with Tyranids. 3 scouts, that helps to deal with the map control. As you noticed, he spent so much rec on this opening that he hasn't even upgraded his power node, while Tex has a full power node. Usually it's Tex who you see who will not build any generators, so he can get a long tier 1. We also have Devastators over here, nearly killing off that Hormagaun squad. I guess Tex not really paying attention. That gets, certainly bleeds Tex a bit, when he probably didn't have to. And here we see that Warrior Brood, the Barb Strangler Warrior Brood, to deal with these garrisoned units. Paranoid has really been taking advantage of the garrison units, so Tex decides that he really needs something for it, although he was kind of just idling for a while. Paranoid sees that he stopped idling and moved his warriors so that they would actually attack the Tax in the building. Devastators over here going to set up. They're not going to set up, they're going to jump in the garrison again. Paranoid, he kind of knows his stuff. It's not like a huge secret or anything that Tyranids don't have great anti-garrison. But he's really taking advantage of it. And we see all these scouts here. Scouts help with the map control. Tyranids are usually going to have more units on the field than Space Marines in Tier 1. Here we actually don't see that. We see Paranoid with more units. That does mean, though, that he had the later gen farm, although he seems to be actually running a bit even, if not having the advantage for power compared to Tex, which is a little surprising. He's going for the garrison again with his scouts. I think with the knowledge that he can use his Force Commander to tie up the Barb Strangler Warriors. Now these scouts are helping Paranoid keep up with map control. He's got his scouts idling right here, but they decapped the power right here, and he even decapped Tex's natural victory point, and he has the Devastators in the building, garrisoned again to take advantage of that Tyranid anti-garrison. Now, suppression teams in buildings can be very difficult to deal with, because even if you have anti-garrison, they might get suppressed before they even get there. The good news is... Actually, I don't know what the good news is. Usually, when you have a suppression team in a garrison, that's when you need some kind of artillery unit, like a Devastator Plasma Squad or a Noise Marine Sonic Blaster. And here we see these Hormagaunts trying to come back to recapture the natural the natural victory point, and the Devastator just forces them off immediately. Termagants are very good against scouts, though. They do bleed too, and they will take losses, but I think it definitely favors the scouts, because two scouts will Two scouts will do about as much damage as one Termagant squad. Scouts, bolter scouts, very low damage. We see Paranoid got the longer tier 1. He put down his generators later, but he's actually made it to he started tier 2 first. So that does actually say a lot about how he managed his map control with those scouts, and I guess in the way those scouts kind of paid for themselves. They may have done more than paid for themselves, but right now the scouts are getting they're blobbed up, and then they got all 3 scout squads were suppressed by that Tyranid warrior. I mean, not Tyranid warrior, Barb Strangler. Well, yeah, warrior, Barb Strangler warriors. Now this one Termagant brood better than any individual scout squad, but the 3 scout squads will force off the Termagants, and yeah. So. This is, again, I said traditionally considered in favor of Tyranids, but Paranoid is managing this matchup very well. I guess he is a dedicated Space Marine player. This is his main. The Force Commander is his main, and Space Marines are his main race. Meanwhile, Texanius the Legend. He is a bit of a jack of all trades. He does kind of play everything. Tyranids are not his main race. I don't even really know what his main race is. I'm guessing Orcs, but just plays a little bit of anything. Paranoid already getting a 6th unit. He went to tier 2 to buy Assault Space Marines. So that's interesting. He could have actually stayed in tier 1 longer without I don't know if that necessarily would have been a good idea. Tex, meanwhile, is getting a Tyrant Guard, which is interesting. Tyrant Guards, they're better in the Elite mod. They've gotten some of their bugs fixed that they had in retail. As I will also find out, obviously, Paranoid has been abusing that weak Tyranid anti-garrison. He's got his Devastators in the garrison right here. Apparently, as I've been told in this replay, Tyrant Guards are actually anti-garrison. I didn't know that, because generally the whole thing is that anti-garrison protects you from melee. Melee does 0 damage to garrisons. But apparently the splash damage of the Tyrant Guard splashes into the buildings. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but apparently that's just how it works. Force Commander right here, no upgrades. He is going to get focused down by these double Termagants. He's chasing after the Ravner Alpha, and he does get snared and decides to run off before taking too much damage. Ravner Alpha right here, he's got the Hardened Carapace, and he's also upgrading to the Corrosive Devourer. Hard word, tough to say. I kind of swallowed the syllables. But extremely good weapon. Does great against heavy armor. Also good against vehicles, or probably great against heavy armor and decent against vehicles. Already Assault Marine squad here with the Sergeant. Going to be extremely good against bleeding those Tyranid Termagants. Tactical Marines have actually been doing a very good job of bleeding the Termagants. They're already up to level 2. They're upgrading to Plasma. He sees the Tyrant Guard. Plasma, you can deal with a Tyrant Guard or any super heavy infantry unit with anti-vehicle. But it's actually much better to get anti-infantry weapons against, not anti-infantry, anti-heavy infantry weapons against super heavy infantry units. It will actually do more damage, has higher DPS. But a rocket launcher would work too. Ooh, Tyranid's exploding and having Synapse Backlash, but the Tyrant Guard doesn't really care. Tyrant Guard, right now, the Tyrant Guard is not really that well countered. He mainly only has the Plasma Gun, and I guess he also has the Force Commander with the Power Fist. But these Assault Space Marines should not engage with the Tyrant Guard. They're taking unnecessary losses. They've lost one member. Right now they're low on health. They're about to get hit by Hormagaunts. This is not a good engagement for them. They even lost the Assault Marine Sergeant right there. That plus 21 red that just went to Tex. Tex, meanwhile, going for a second Tyrant card. This is a build that I have never seen before. Should help with that supposed anti-garrison. And I'm saying in the chat, I'm talking in chat, I'm saying, I'd like to think Paranoid is going to win this game. He's winning right now, but Tex sometimes wins in these situations. There are so many times when Tex looks like he is not going to win. Right now, he's blob capping with his Termagants. He realizes he's blob capping, so he decides to move these Termagants out of the way, start bleeding these scouts. Now I'm saying 2 Tyrant cards, did not see that coming. That will give Tex the advantage. Because right now, he doesn't really have enough to counter 2 Tyrant cards. He barely has enough to counter 1 Tyrant card. Scouts, unfortunately, just don't do that much damage. We had a drop pod right here that, as I thought in game, I did not really think it was worth it. I know he was missing the Assault Marine models. I don't know how many Scout models he was missing. Tyrant card right here, low on health, relatively low on health, like 40%. Was that drop pod really worth it? Here I am asking about it. Right now we got a big Space Marine Bob here. Still got these Bolter Scouts, all just Bolter Scouts. Combined, all 3 of them do about 63 DPS, which is pretty bad. It's just slightly more than attack squad with a sergeant. So 3 scout squads equals 1 attack squad with a sergeant. That corrosive devourer, I can't say that. That is too many syllables. Really tearing into these tactical marines. He's kind of giving the Ravener Alpha levels here and experience. And I even say it in the chat, that Ravener Alpha weapon is really good. Scouts right here, forcing melee against the Ravener Alpha. Meanwhile, Tyranids over here. Not many members on a lot of these Tyranid squads. Definitely missing members. But they're coming over here, possibly coming down to bash this power. The other Tyrant card, this is the original Tyrant card, chasing off these Scouts who were trying to backcap. But Space Marine Blob in the middle, they did win that engagement. But it looks like a power bash is going to go over here. We see a Tyranid call in. Ravener's good unit. They even disrupt some of their own units. Ravener's great unit for disruption. Very good for range damage too. They do more damage. Raveners with the range Devourer, they actually do more damage than 3 Scout squads combined. Here they're forcing melee. Good for the disruption too. Raveners really good for a squad that does both a lot of range damage and also disrupts and does decent melee damage. Again, we see the Devastator inside, and this is looking like, ooh, we had the Assault Marines jumped into a very big blob, and their main worry was the Hormagaunts, but they used the Merciless Strike to do a lot of damage to those Hormagaunts and force them off. Paranoid is bleeding. He is bleeding Tex a lot. And I apparently missed, one of these Scout squads went down. I'm guessing it was a Scout squad over here that Paranoid was probably not paying attention to as this engagement went on over here. And we see the shield wall up for the Tyrant Guard, restoring its health, giving it vehicle armor. Tex now about to get a 3 cap. He's been losing on the VPs most of the game, but now he's starting to make his comeback. Paranoid has kind of been winning it. He's as much as this is supposed to be a tough matchup, he knows the matchup, and he's been exploiting Tyranid weaknesses like anti-garrison, leading them a lot with tax and assault Space Marines. These tax already at level 2, about to be level 3. Paranoid already making it to tier 3. Pretty amazing. He is using his Force Commander to try to kill this Tyrant Guard. It would be a waste to have anything else really attack this Tyrant Guard, because the Power Fist is the only AV that Paranoid really has right now. He decides to leave the Tyrant Guard alone, though, so he can chase after the Ravener Alpha. Bolter Scouts again going back into the garrison. We have Scouts again in the garrison. Apparently, let's see how well this Tyrant Guard does anti-garrison. Okay. I think that guy was lying to me, because this Tyrant Guard is hitting the building and not doing damage to these Scouts. So that guy was wrong. Tyranid anti-garrison, not that good. Tyrant Guards, not anti-garrison. Don't listen to anyone who tells you they are. And it looks like Paranoid uses the Iron Halo to prevent his Force Commander from getting disrupted, and that allows him to not get disrupted by the Ravener so he can finish off that Tyrant Guard. Although Super Paul is telling me now in the chat that the Tyrant Guard splash damage won't hurt units on the second floor. I don't believe it. Scouts right here trying to capture. Now, Paranoid is getting a lot of map control with these scouts, but he's also definitely taking a lot of bleed with them, just because they're so much easier to kill than Tax. That Tyrant Guard, unfortunately, not affected by suppression. Not that well countered still, even though Texas managed to take out one of them. But it does manage to just charge through that Devastator and disrupt it. Assault Space Marines will win against the Ravener Alpha. Ravener Alpha now has the Strength and Sinew, increases the Ravener Alpha's speed by 1.5. He also has this Regenerate, which I'm guessing is a new war gear. I kind of studied the war gears a lot back in retail. These days I'm not as dedicated to the game, so I don't remember this. I think it's something new in Elite. I don't play Tyranids much. I don't like them. I think they're a boring race, so I kind of don't know. Assault Marines right here disrupting this whole Tyranid range blob, 2 Termagants, and the Raveners, but now they are taking a lot of damage from this Corrosive Devourer. Such a tough word, too much of a mouthful. Tax over here, almost level 3. They've really been leveling up a lot. I think Tax, probably a good investment in this matchup, just because of how well they will bleed and then get levels off of Termagants and Hormagaunts. Meanwhile, I'm talking in the chat about how I think Paranoid will get Assault Terminators. He had the resources for it, and he almost had the red for it. He's getting a tank instead, which is what Super Paul thought he would get. And he says that he claims that Terminators will get beaten by the Tyrant Guards, which I don't personally believe. We got these Tax going into the building again, decapping by the Warriors, and the Devastators doing some damage to this Ravener Alpha. Ravener Alpha needs to go. And I'm still talking in the chat where I'm saying Assault Terminators, which I like to call ass terms, should be fine. I think they would actually do just fine against this Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard, again, this other Tyrant Guard going into Shield Wall. Maybe I should stop talking about Shield Wall and start looking at fighting. Tactical Marines now at level 3. I think Tactical Marines are pretty good against the races of other range units because they will inflict a lot of losses without taking any, and it means they get levels while denying losses to the other team. Or, yeah, to that other race. Force Commander gets forced off. Tax over here, not Tax. Scouts over here just backcapping. We have the Predator over here. That Predator, that tank, that Super Paul, not Super Pool, as Indrid likes to say it, Super Paul, claimed that Paranoid was going to get. And I'm talking about damage numbers in the chat. Assault Terminators do 135 DPS heavy melee. Tyrant Guards do 85. I think Assault Terminators would win that fight. We got the Predator over here trying to do AV to this Tyrant Guard. And these Assault Marines should not even be wasting their time. They do not do significant damage. Meanwhile, this Predator is now kind of in a bad position. It's getting hit by Warriors with that heavy melee. And now the Tyrant Guard comes out of Shield Wall because it also does heavy melee. And this Predator is in a bad position, and then this Ravener does ranged anti-vehicle. I think even Super Paul in the chat is saying, what is he doing? And I think he was referring to that tank. That tank ended up being a bit of a waste. Should have gotten Terminators like I said. Meanwhile, Assault Terminators taking losses. Again, should not engage the Tyrant Guard really if you can help it. And now we have that Terminator call in right here. Coming in right by this Tyrant Guard. Assault Terminators, those Thunder Hammers, they go after the Ravener Alpha because they do not want him to capture. Those swings are so slow. Meanwhile, we got the middle. Paranoid is capturing the middle. He's got a level 3 Force Commander right now that's fully kitted out. Power Fist, Artificer Armor, Iron Halo. Artificer Armor has very good synergy with the Iron Halo because of how much it increases energy. And then, obviously, the Iron Halo is giving you 5 points of health or 5 points of damage resistance for every point of energy. These Assault Terminators, meanwhile, taking out this Tyrant Guard, probably going to finish it off, while the Force Commander is up against the Venom Cannon Carnifex. Interesting to go Venom Cannon, especially now that Assault Terminators are on the field. But, I mean, all Carnifexes are good, and the great thing about Carnifexes is that you can get more than one of them. You can get a lot of them. And, oh, I even commented that this fight over here, not really a fight, but where the Terminators were hammering on that Tyrant Guard, I was actually watching, and I checked the Assault Terminators' experience. As you can see right here, they have none. They did not get any experience for killing that Tyrant Guard, because it was actually the Scouts that got the last hit, and they got the experience. I don't know how much it was, but I know they got the experience because the Assault Terminators still have none. Tex is kind of caught up on the victory points. He's still behind, but he's not at much of a deficit as he was before, and he's definitely not using on the unit count as much as he was before. Paranoid, meanwhile, he got his Assault Terminators as his super unit. He's also got these Vanguards, and I sometimes kind of think of the Vanguards as a super unit, especially against power armor races, and heavy infantry in general. I don't know what the stats are, so I don't know if it's that much of an improvement against squads that don't have heavy armor. And I'm wondering if the Vanguards just get power melee on their weapons, because they have power weapons. He also upgraded to the Power Fist, so I'm assuming that's heavy melee. This is a fight that is definitely a winning battle for the Space Marines. Even with this Carnifex right here, we got anti-vehicle on all of these melee units. The Assault Terminators obviously doing a ton of damage. Tax right here, unfortunately, bleeding too much for Paranoid. Tex is making good use of that Corrosive Devourer. Such a tough word to say. Too many syllables. Such a mouthful. But he's really using it, and the high plasma damage to bleed those TAC models when Paranoid isn't really looking. Anyway, Terminators right here being used to cap. Scouts right here. Oh, and I just caught that Scout Squad getting wiped. I had kind of noticed it when I was observing that Paranoid was getting hit by those, that his Scout Squad was getting hit by those Hormagaunts, and then they didn't make it out of there and retreat, even though it looked like they were going to. But Hormagaunts are good retreat killers because they do have very high speed. I think it's actually 6.5, unless that's been changed. They actually used to be really broken retreat killers back when their speed would be 7.5 with the upgrade to Adrenal Glands. Tex, meanwhile, getting Gene Stealers, and Paranoid, unfortunately, doesn't have that many units anymore. He lost all 3 of his Scout Squads, which were all Bolter Scouts. Those Scout Squads probably could have lived longer if they had a Sergeant, and they could have done potentially more damage if they had shotguns, but he wanted to save his money for other units. He did get these Terminators out on the field. He's almost got enough money and enough red for a second Terminator squad if he really wants. I actually think it would be good for him to get ranged Terminators, because they would be extremely effective against the Termagants, even the Raveners. They would be very good against. And they would also be good against the Hormagaunts. I mean, and did I say that already? The Termagants. Just because ranged Terminators do 100 DPS right out of the gate, roughly 130 if you get the Assault Cannon. And these Termagants have roughly 100 health per model. Although they are a bit leveled, so they do have a bit more. Assault Terminator should not be that scared. We do have another Devastator. He decided to get a late-game Devastator. Decided to get a Las Cannon to help deal with that Carnifex. Now, this is something, my opinion is that you should get a Las Cannon against Tyranids, just because you will inevitably have to deal with either a Carnifex, multiple Carnifexes, the Swarm Lord, and multiple Carnifexes, and it's a bitch. And that snare on the Las Cannon really does help. But at the same time, Las Cannon is very fragile, especially against units like Gene Stealers. Where are those Gene Stealers? I don't even see where the Gene Stealers are. Yeah. But anyway, Gene Stealers. Gene Stealers right here. That's where they are. And Gene Stealers up against this Las Cannon is going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. This is a wipe. It's a wipe. And as you will see it right fucking here, that exactly what I was just talking about. is that las cannon Devastator, or Devastator in general, just gets wiped by power melee squads, especially Gene Stealers, which do a ton of damage. Also by Banshees, the prototypical bullshit power melee squad. Obviously, Devastators having not that much health, having heavy armor, so they will take extra damage against power melee, and also that extra damage in retreat. Oh, and then the big thing is that Devastators do not have melee resist, while Tactical Marines and Scouts do. So Tacs can actually kind of survive against Banshees and Gene Stealers, but not Devastators. Never. And meanwhile, we got these Vanguard squads. I love, and that Lightning Claw is pretty cool. And they just took out that what do you call it? The tunnel. That's that hard word I'm looking for. This Devastator squad, I don't know if you've seen it, is actually at level 3, so it's been killing a lot of stuff. Especially these armor guns that are about to get wiped. And those armor guns get wiped. So finally, Tex gets a wipe, but unfortunately, my personal opinion is that a Hormigaunt wipe is not worth a whole lot, because Hormagaunts kind of get expendable. They're pretty expendable. They do their job in Tier 1, but you don't really want to save them the way you want to save Banshees, or the way you want to save even Sluggers. They're expendable, and you're just clearing the Tyranid player's pop cap to spam Carnifexes, which is always fun. Paranoid floating a lot of resources right now. He could get another Terminator squad. He could get a Land Raider, but that is probably not a good idea. Land Raider not so good against Tyranids because, I mean, it'll do well against the infantry, but it gets countered by any kind of Carnifex. Here comes that second Carnifex. Oh, let's check the resources. Oh, not the resources, but... Oh, the second Carnifex. Now with a Barbed Strangler for suppression. And Tex says, oh, whoops, I have red. And we see a little engagement right here. That Venom Cannon, not just for AV, even though it does AV. Good against things. Oh, and we have a second Terminator squad right here. Again, I was saying ranged Terminators. He decides to go for a second Assault Terminator squad. The good thing about a second, like, even if you got second ranged squad, I'm going to stop talking about Terminators and start talking about this fucking Tyranid tree that spiked up, killed that building, and just wiped that level 3 Devastator squad. It's so sad. Getting a Devastator squad to level 3. I mean, for the most part, suppression squads do not really level. Maybe Shuriken Cannons and Ludas now, but Devastators not so much, and certainly not Havocs. You will certainly never see leveled Havocs unless they're switched to an autocannon. But that suppression Devastator squad was suppressed. I mean, it was level 3. We got a big engagement going down here. Termagant squad goes down, which unfortunately, not, again, in my opinion, not that big of a loss. It's a bigger loss than losing a Hormagaunt squad, just because that snare can still be useful in the late game. But still not that much of a loss, because you're still clearing the Tyranid player's pop cap to just spam Carnifexes. Now, unfortunately, what I think kind of happened here was Paranoid had his Terminators split, and I think it would have been better off keeping them together, so he could have committed better to killing one of these Carnifexes. As it is, he's got his Terminator squad in here, and he's going to lose it. They're really low on health, and it just went down right there, and that's a terrible loss. And he says shit, because he knows that he's kind of fucked now. Tax going into the building again, using that advantage. Meanwhile, we got a Predator up here again, a new Predator. I guess because he knows at this point he's not going to get enough red, or he wasn't going to get enough red to get another Terminator squad. And we got these Terminators right here against the Gene Stealers, and I think these Gene Stealers are about to steal the Terminator's genes, because they're getting health back, and they're not losing that. Well, they actually are losing models, but look at how much damage they're doing, and just how long they're staying in there against Assault Terminators. They do take out a model. Did I miss anything right there? Anyway, Force Commander, now they are kind of in trouble. They do need to teleport out, but they're just going to engage. I don't know if maybe the teleport's on cooldown. Did I miss it? Neither of the Carnifexes are down, in spite of the fact that I think Assault Terminators do kind of counter Carnifexes, and Carnifexes are not an easy unit to deal with. I still think as I was trying to say before a fucking Tyranno formation went off and wiped a level 3 Devastator squad, I think he should have gone for ranged Terminators. Ranged Terminators still do about like 100 DPS heavy melee as a squad, so they're still good in melee. They don't have a melee charge, but Carnifexes are slow. They can walk up to a Carnifex. Over here, Tex did lose his Ravener Alpha, but unfortunately Paranoid has lost most of his army. He just lost 2 Assault Terminator squads, which is kind of sad. He's still got the Vanguard. He's got a new Scout Squad, a late game Scout Squad. I guess at this point he's in trouble. He feels he just needs to try to win it by capping, because obviously the victory points are really low. Tex is actually still lower in the victory points, although I'm already saying in the chat that this is looking like Tex. And this Vanguard's about to get wiped. All that's left are Scouts and the Force Commander against 2 Carnifexes, against a 3rd Carnifex. Paranoid does call GG though, and Tex agrees. It was quite a GG. I think Paranoid could have won it there. He was definitely doing very well for a while. Tex, unfortunately, Texanius the Legend, he was down, and unfortunately he did what he often does, which is that even when it looks like he's not going to win, he just does it anyway, because he is fucking crazy. Anyway, have a good night.